Yo guys, what is up? Max on our Borderlands 4 video, and today we are talking about which Vault Hunter is best for you. Now, I am in a bit of a unique position in that I've actually played all 4 of the Vault Hunters, so I've gotten an idea for not only how they operate, but I've also been doing a lot of build crafting around their different skill trees. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about which Vault Hunter is best for you, covering their strengths, some of their weaknesses, and what playstyles they're going to really provide. In Borderlands 4, the skill trees are larger than we've ever seen, so it's kind of difficult to keep track of what Vault Hunter is going to be good at what, and what kind of playstyles they're going to lean into. So hopefully this video answers a lot of the questions that you may be looking for. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. So the first character to talk about is Vex. Now, Vex is this game's Siren, but she's operating very differently than past Sirens in other games have really focused on crowd control and elemental damage. And while Vex does have some semblance of crowd control and elemental damage, she's really focusing on some new things and bringing a lot of new stuff to the Siren role. Vex's main character identity is that she's going to be focusing a lot on minion and pet damage. Vex has 2 skill trees that allow her to summon familiars, reapers. She can summon her cat, and all of these abilities are going to allow you to live out a necromancer fantasy. If you've played a necromancer or enjoyed that playstyle, Vex is going to fit that role better than any of the other characters. For Vex's 3 skill trees, her first orange skill tree comes with Phase Familiar, which allows you to summon a minion named Trouble, which you can have out fighting for you 100% of the time. And Trouble will attack different enemies, and you can transform Trouble into a badass. Vex's orange tree very much focuses on scaling up Trouble and her own damage, and really leaning into that minion playstyle with, in my opinion, her most interesting skill side is this left side in orange tree, which allows you to get a ton of extra ordnance damage, increased ordnance damage, and then also scale your minions off of the percentage increases to your ordnance damage, while also making your Trouble deal ordnance damage in an elemental AoE, and also allow you to gain a bunch of extra cryo damage. Vex's green tree comes with the Incarnate action skill, which allows you to basically turn into a Grim Reaper, launching Eldritch Blasts out of your hands, while also giving you increased movement speed and restoring your health. The Incarnate skill focuses on Vex's gun damage, and her ability to dish out single target damage, with one of the most interesting nodes being Bloodletter, which allows you to stack up bleeds on enemies. And also Vex's right side of her tree gives her a bunch of lifesteal and extra damage. However, one of the coolest nodes is Vex gains bonus kinetic damage with guns based on lifesteal while her health is full. This is potentially a massive bonus damage increase to kinetic weapons, which will then feed back into her bleed damage so that she can stack tons of bleed dots on enemies. Vex's blue tree comes with the Dead Ringer action skill, which allows you to summon phase clone minions. You can either summon specters or reapers. Specters will stand still and shoot guns that deal gun damage, and Reapers will hover and fly around. They'll taunt enemies and deal melee damage. Some big highlights in the Dead Ringer tree are Cursed Blades, which allow you, and with the extra Cursed, your minions to apply curses to enemies to make them take extra damage. There's also Haruspex with Pincushion, which allows Vex to throw out phase daggers in a fan pattern at enemies, which sounds awesome. There's also Heirloom in the capstone, which allows your phase clones to get a copy of your gun. So if you get the best gun in the game, now you get 2 of the best guns in the game, because your companions or your minions will also have them out, which is really, really cool. If you enjoyed Flak, Lilith, or Timothy / the Doppelganger in previous games, I think you'll really like Vex. I think she's going to be a really strong pick for early game, especially in Borderlands 4, seemingly because her minions and pets all do very good damage, kind of regardless of what gear you have starting out. And she really specializes in that necromancer playstyle. But if you're not into that, she's still got plenty of things going for her, leaning into bleed, kinetic damage, status effect damage, ordnance damage, and more. And that is Vex. Next up, we've got Rafa. Rafa is an ex-TDR soldier He's got a lot of synergies and damage increases with corrosive elements, shock, and fire elements. He is also, in my opinion, going to be one of the best Ordnance characters. Ordnance is a new kind of type of weapon where they're bundling up like rocket launchers, grenades, throwing knives, and like these big flak turrets in one category. They're going to have a cooldown, and Rafa's got a ton of things to increase the damage of Ordnance, but also get tons of different ways to have Ordnance cooldown. If you're looking to play an Ordnance build, a grenade build, a throwing knife build, I think Rafa's going to be a really great choice for that. Rafa also, on paper, is going to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest characters. Obviously, we haven't seen like the rest of the gear, but Rafa's definitely gotten leaning into movement speed, and he's also got a tree that is pretty dedicated to lots of melee damage. In Rafa's green tree, he gets the action skill Arc Knives, which allows him to put down his guns and equip these massive lightning blades. These allow him to dash around, mark enemies for more damage, and at the end of his action skill, he can basically detonate all of the enemies around him for massive damage. Rafa's big highlight in his green tree, in my opinion, is the synergies in the middle tree with collaborative ignition, where you deal bonus damage of your weapons element with all skills and ordnance while overdrive is active. Synergia, where Rafa deals ordnance damage. He also gains increased gun damage. And then El Diablito, a portion of all fire damage Rafa deals, also deals bonus fire ordnance damage, meaning that if you're using a gun that is fire damage, that fire gun will then deal fire ordnance damage, which will then trigger Synergia, which whenever you're dealing ordnance damage, you also deal increased gun damage, so that your gun should be dealing more damage, which will then give you more bonus ordnance damage. And then also with things like booming business, whenever you critically hit, you have a chance to spawn free grenades, so you could just be having grenades flying around while also massively buffing up their damage and doing more grenade things. I think you could go about this even if you didn't want to use the arc knives, which is really cool. But also with Infernal Protocol, you could just do a bunch of like bonus fire damage with your knives. All looks really neat. In Rafa's red tree, you get the Peacebreaker cannons. These are kind of a hit it and forget about it action skill, which you summon auto turrets that shoot at enemies. You're also able to re-trigger this action skill with different augments, such as Hell in a Shell, which allows you to launch massive fire bombs at enemies whenever you like reactivate your action skill. Unmissable Missiles gives you homing missiles on these things. This is a little bit more of your like turret character evolved. Think Axton, but good. Just kidding, Axton. I personally was an Axton enjoyer. But Rafa's highlights of his red tree, in my opinion, have to do with this far left side. He's got a lot of cool things here. But asymmetric warfare gives him increased damage with indirect projectiles, which counts as like throwing knives, but also ricochets. Rolling Stones allows you to like ricochet projectiles off of you. Ardid gives you lifesteal on your ricochets. Errant Spark gives you bonus fire damage on your ricochets. And then Lateral Plinking gives your ricochets a chance to ricochet if you want to just light up the entire field in burning projectiles that are bouncing around, healing you and hitting everything. This tree is going to be really awesome for that. And lastly, Rafa's Apophis Lance tree, or his blue tree, allows him to equip a arm cannon that allows you to shoot at the same time and shoot out piercing ordnance lightning blasts. Rafa's blue tree focuses in on a lot of ordnance damage, but his left side of the tree is where, like, I think for me personally is the coolest, where you've got Conductivo, which gives you increased status effect and shock chance, Brain Pump, which gives you extra crit chance with your guns while your overdrive is active, El Catrine, which gives you bonus shock damage, and then the real kicker is Awe. Whenever Rafa shocks an enemy, all shots fired at that enemy are critical hits. And Fiesta, whenever you apply a status effect, his action skill consumes no duration, and Apophis Lance consumes no charge. With the proper build with this, I think you're going to be able to basically have 100% crit uptime because you're just going to be shocking everything. But also, if you're applying status effects with nodes like Conductivo, you're also going to be able to spam your Apophis Lance. You should be able to just pump out a ton of damage. I'm really looking at this skill tree for single target bossing. I just don't see a world where this isn't strong. If you enjoyed characters like Zane, Zero, Wilhelm, and Axton, I think Rafa's going to be a great pick for you. He's fast. He looks like he's got a lot of damage. He is a little bit more of that like soldier fantasy, but he's taking it to new heights. Next up, we've got Amon. Amon is your tank slash bruiser character in Borderlands 4. However, what sets Amon apart is he is the Forge Knight. And unlike a lot of the other characters, we've got kind of like 3 action skills with some augments. Amon completely drastically changes his action skills to forge brand new weapons. He's got swords, axes, hammers, spears, whips, maces, you name it, he can do damage with it. He summons all of these different weapons and drones to fight by his side and aid him in combat. He's got a strong emphasis on fire, ice, and shock damage. He is also the second, like really melee-oriented character besides Rafa. In his blue tree, he's got a lot of ordnance things that are going to allow him to do some pretty crazy things with ordnance, which we'll talk about in a second. And he's also got a character that is got a lot of survivability baked in, both with the ability to just block incoming damage entirely, as well as give himself a lot of like damage reduction and healing. The Calamity skill tree focuses a lot on burning damage and melee damage, with some emphasis on cryo and shock as well. The most interesting nodes to me, though, are on this left side with Berserk. Whenever you activate your Forge skill, you gain Berserk for a duration, which gives you slow immunity and bonus cryo damage with your guns and melee. Why is bonus cryo important? If an enemy is frozen, they take 300% increased melee damage. And with There Is Only Red, whenever you kill an enemy while Berserk is active, you restore Berserk's duration and get an increased bonus cryo damage from Berserk. With My Touch is Death, whenever you deal melee damage, you can activate your kill skills. Hor Cleave gives you a massive Forge Axe to slam down and freeze everything that you pass through. And then with Brimming Vigor, you gain more max health capacity and increase melee damage. And Bloodlust, whenever your shield breaks, you get Bloodlust, which is going to give you lifesteal. Basically, this side of the tree is going to allow you to deal a bunch of extra bonus cryo damage and freeze everything around you, which should then massively increase your melee damage. And if you're looking to play like a true melee Amon, I think there's some cool things to do there. Amon's green tree gives him Crucible, which allows you to throw either flame or fire axes at enemies. You get multiple stacks of these, and you can just kind of spam them. They're one of the most spammy action skills that I've seen so far in the game. And with later augments, you can turn them into hammers or swords or make them instant freeze enemies. Now, a big fantasy of the green tree is these forged drones. After you've thrown these things, they can become drones that will seek out and attack enemies. And Amon's green tree really enforces this with Tempered Pyre. Whenever Amon activates his Forge skill, he spawns an Axe Forge drone that attacks nearby enemies. And then with Twin Tempers, you can spawn an additional Axe that deals cryo damage. So this alone, now with your Axe that you're throwing, you're getting them to turn into Forge drones. With Tempered Ice, whenever Amon activates his Ordnance, he spawns Hammer Cryo Forge drones. With Masterwork, gives all of your Forge drones more damage and duration. An Ordained Hammer Forge drones now deal Ordnance damage in addition to their types and gain a chance to cause detonation on enemies, dealing cryo damage in an area. And Tempered Lightning allows you to have Shock Sword melee drones that whenever you activate your action skill, you get these, and then you can give them more attack speed and movement speed. With Honed Point, your Forge drones now have a chance to critically hit. Basically, the playstyle that interests me the most about this tree is constantly spamming your action skill to constantly have all of these drones out running around and hitting everything for you, dealing a bunch of damage. And it's kind of that minion playstyle fantasy. Next up, we've got Amon's blue tree, which allows him to use the action skill Scourge. This allows you to use a Forge shield to block incoming damage. As you block incoming damage, you will build up Vengeance. Vengeance allows you to unleash your Vengeance Whip, which when it passes through enemies deals cryo ordnance damage. Blue tree has a strong focus on cryo damage with things like Bullet Hail, which gives your gunshots a chance to ricochet as elemental shards, dealing cryo damage. So you just get ricochets on your shots. Ancient Ways gives you more cryo damage. Wrath of Nature gives you status application chance and cryo effectiveness. a bunch of different cryo bonuses. And then when we get down into his tree, there's a ton of different things that you can use. Glacial Rapture allows your Firewall, which is normally like a defensive skill, to send out a cryo fissure on the ground, creating cryo hazards and freezing things. But one of the coolest things that this tree is doing is these like stacking bonuses. There's Burning Rage, that whenever you kill an enemy with incendiary damage, you gain a stack of Flame Affinity, which gives you active skill cooldown and reload speed. There's Icy Rage, that whenever you kill an enemy with cryo damage, you gain Cryo Affinity, which gives you gun damage, which is really, really nice. And then Thunderous Rage, that whenever you kill an enemy with shock damage, you gain a stock of Shock Affinity, which gives you increased crit damage. Now, with all of those things, you can then consume those stacks to do a bunch of different other crazy things. So if you have Shock Affinity stacks, whenever you do action skill damage, you cause elemental bolts to come down from the sky. And with Winter's Kiss, whenever you deal ordnance damage, you consume a stack of Cryo Affinity to cause elemental shards to go flying out. And with Corroming Shards, those shards have a chance to ricochet. And then with World Breaker, if you slam, you consume your incendiary stacks to cause out flaming fissures. Now, it might be a little bit confusing on how you would stack all these things up, but we have seen a class mod in footage that whenever you gain a stack of one of these, you gain a stack for all of them. So I think a really cool Amon build is going to be stacking up all of these things and causing lightning bolts, cryo shards, and flame fissures going everywhere, and kind of spec into all of the elements and have all these cool effects going on. If you really enjoyed Brick, Krieg, Athena, or the Clawbringer in previous games, I think Amon is going to be an awesome choice for you. He is a total badass and's got some of the best like action skill diversity that we've seen. And last but not least, we get to Harlowe. Harlowe is our pseudo siren. While Vex has some siren abilities and definitely is doing siren things, Harlowe is really our embodiment of the siren in this game. However, Harlowe, instead of having magical space powers, is able to do the things that sirens have been able to do with her tech and her gadgets. Harlowe has built the entire Maliwan ecosystem and has a strong synergies with AoE damage and crowd control, particularly focusing in on cryo and radiation damage. She is also the real only character that has some real like team play buffs. Amon has some, but Harlowe definitely has more. And she also is going to be one of the characters with the most action skill spam, at least on paper. She's got so many ways to give herself more cooldown, instantly reset her action skills, keep her action skills going. And while Amon is going to be the action skill spammer early on, I think Harlowe is going to basically be able to keep up her action skills all the time towards late game. And I am so excited for her. Harlowe's character trait is Entanglement, which allows her, whenever she deals action skill damage to an enemy, to entangle them. Entangled enemies share a portion of gun and skill damage with all other entangled enemies. By default, this is only sharing 7% of damage dealt, but by the time you're later invested into Harlowe, you will be dealing way more shared damage as you can scale this, and also it scales with increases to skill damage, making it so that you can just nuke rooms with her. Harlowe's Chroma Accelerator in her red tree gives her the ability to fire an unstable energy pocket, which is basically a portable nuke. This will pass through enemies dealing cryo damage, and then when you click your button again on your action scale, it will detonate it, dealing a massive radiation explosion. Harlowe's red tree really focuses on radiation and also cryo damage. You've got some crazy nodes like Enriched, which gives you increased radiation damage paired with Poison Sun, which gives you increased radiation damage and a radiation chance. Glow Up, which gives you critical hit chance with guns against irradiated enemies. Fizzle Launcher, whenever Harlowe damages an irradiated enemy or an entangled enemy, shoot radiation darts to another enemy. Chain Reactor, which gives her bonus radiation damage to entangled enemies. Dirty Bomb, whenever she irradiates an enemy, she creates radiation explosions for 40% of your irradiated damage. And Wasted, whenever you kill an irradiated enemy or kill an enemy with radiation damage, it leaves behind radiation hazards. This is just going to look like massive radiation nukes going off on your screen with all of the enemies sharing and like sending out all these radiation explosions and dots. And then with Demon Core, as you shoot this pocket nuke out, it's also going to launch all these radiation darts out. And I think that all sounds really cool. But one of the cooler things is over here in the cue ball. This allows Harlowe to really focus in on like cryo damage here with core sample, which or carry the one. Whenever Harlowe entangles enemy, she gains a chance to entangle another nearby enemy. Core sample gives her lifesteal against frozen enemies opposing fours. Whenever you freeze an enemy, you gain action skill cooldown rate, and break the ice converts all of your like damage to cryo damage. But the real cool thing here is cue ball. This allows your unstable energy pocket to just bounce around. You're no longer manually detonating it. And whenever it hits an enemy, it changes direction and bounces towards another enemy. This thing's going to be like ricocheting and bouncing all over the place. But when you pair that with the field research augment, which you could technically pair with anything, anytime you kill an enemy with her action skill, you are guaranteed to refund 20% of its cooldown. And also, whenever you kill an entangled enemy while the energy pocket is active. So if you kill 5 enemies with her action skill, which this thing is launching a nuke or bouncing around hitting enemies, you will have your action skill again. So as long as you kill 5 enemies while this is out, you have 100% action skill uptime. Harlowe's green tree gives her the flux generator skill. This basically throws down a generator that puts out a big energy field, which deals cryo damage, slowing enemies down, and also entangling enemies while you or your friends are inside it. You also gain overshield. Some of the most notable things to call out in green tree is kernel mass ejection, which while enemies are in flux generator, they lose all of their elemental resistances, so you can like just deal way more damage to them. This is potentially like giving you like a 30 to 40% damage multiplier on enemies, and you gain a 100% status effect chance, which is massive. With absolute zero, whenever you freeze an enemy, you basically freeze the duration of your action skill, so you can keep up your flux generator way more often. And then with refraction, Harlowe and her allies gain ricochet chance against entangled enemies. Critical hits double this chance. And with just a single point into excited state, whenever an enemy is damaged by Harlowe's action skill, the next shot on that enemy will automatically be a critical hit. So you're going to have extra ricochets with that. And then Harlowe also gets some pretty crazy things with decoherence, which massively buffs up her entanglement damage bonus. This is going to give you 32% entangled enemy bonus damage when you're hitting enemies just that are entangled, with an additional 15% if they're inside your flux generator. So your enemies are going to be taking way more shared damage. And lastly, in Harlowe's blue tree, she gets 0 point. If you've played Maya or Amara, this is very similar to like phase lock / phase grasp. However, it's got additional functionality. So with this action skill, you can put enemies into a stasis bubble that floats up in the air. However, what you do with that enemy is totally up to you. You can either shoot them and kill that enemy, or you can use them as a wrecking ball to slam into other enemies, or slam them into barrels, or just throw them off of a cliff. With Harlowe's Strange Attractor augment, whenever you shoot an enemy with your gun, your bullets will ricochet to all enemies in stasis, and if you critically hit an enemy, they become entangled, making them share damage. This was one of my favorite sounding things. With Ripple Effect, whenever you kill an entangled enemy, you automatically entangle another enemy. So as long as you entangle one enemy, you should basically be able to keep up entangled 100% of the time. With her Domino Effect, whenever you deal splash damage to an entangled enemy, you have a chance to trigger that entangled damage again, which is crazy. And then one of her most insane skills in honestly her entire tree is Gordian Knot. Whenever Harlowe kills an entangled enemy, she's going to have a 35% chance to get her action skill completely refunded. Meaning as long as you're shooting into groups of enemies, you should, theoretically have your action skill up pretty much all the time, because you've got a 35% chance to just get it back, which is insane. And then in her middle tree, she's got a lot of ice things going on. This is Harlowe's like really, really big focused cryo tree, both on this left side here and in the middle, with Unstoppable Isotope. You gain bonus cryo damage with all sources. Endothermic Reaction gives you a constant cryo aura whenever you're freezing enemies. Triple Point allows you to get 45% bonus cryo damage to entangled enemies. And then Heatsink gives you more cooldown rate whenever you're freezing enemies. Cold Storage allows you to store like cryo damage on enemies so that whenever they die, they're exploding. And Cold Plunge, whenever you're slamming an enemy, meaning they're bringing them down with your action skill, you're going to create a cryo explosion and pull a singularity to pull in everyone. She's also got some pretty crazy things with Force of Will. If you put 1 point here and then 1 point into here or 5 points into here, whenever you daze an enemy, which is just triggered by critical hits, you are guaranteed to entangle them. So now you no longer need to rely on your action skill to entangle. You just crit anything and they will become entangled for 8 seconds. And then with Stunlock, whenever Harlowe critically hits an enemy, she puts them into stasis. So you've got shared entanglements. You've got 100% uptime on your action skill. You've got anything that she is critting, turning entangled. And when you're critically hitting them, you're also putting them in stasis. And then Freeze Frame, you deal bonus cryo damage for every enemy she has in stasis. The amount of bonus cryo damage and freezing she's going to be able to do with this skill tree is crazy. If you really enjoyed Maya, Amara, or Aurelia in previous games, I think you're absolutely going to love Harlowe. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I know this was probably a bit of a longer one. I didn't know exactly how much detail I wanted to go into all the Vault Hunters, but I did kind of want to highlight some of their skill trees, some of the cool things that those characters are doing, and some of their synergies. I will have a much more detailed video once I play all of these Vault Hunters on, kind of going over their like exact strengths, but I didn't want to speculate too much on like who's going to be the best or who's going to be the worst or anything like that until we really get to deep dive with these characters. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Honestly, with Borderlands 4, I really don't think there's any wrong choice that you can make. We've seen it in Borderlands 3. There's no Vault Hunter that you can't do all of the content with in Borderlands 3. They're all strong in their own regards. Some are strong earlier, some are strong later. But as long as you're picking the character that you think is going to be the most fun, I think you're going to have a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. I will catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.